The vast majority of Tory members who intend to vote appear to have voted already, though we did meet some people on their way to this hustings saying they'd held back until the last minute so they could hear what was said in the hall behind me. Ian Duncan-Smith is one of the warm-up routines. We haven't got to the main acts yet, but we have heard an awful lot from the main acts, and it seems as though, if you believe the polling, the party membership has decided who they're going to plump for. In Team Rishi, talking to people there, they say that they feel they've got, some people say they feel they've got about a 1 in 10 chance of confusing the polls, defying them, those opinion polls, and actually coming through and winning. But it doesn't look like that is likely, and you get a sense of where the real action is and where the expectation is when you look around for where the senior civil service are. And Simon Case, the Cabinet Secretary, other senior civil servants have been parking themselves in Chevening, where the Foreign Secretary Liz Truss has been talking through plans for government as Liz Truss begins her plans for who she's going to appoint to a cabinet. There's a similar shadow operation going on in the Rishi Sunak team, but it's got nothing like the same energy about it. Whoever gets the job is going to inherit a divided party, and you get a flavour of that talking to some of the members, as we did, as they pitched up. You started off as a Rishi Sunak supporter, leaning that way.
I was leaning that way, yes.
But you've swung over to Liz Truss.
Yes, I have, and I think she's probably going to be more of a conservative, because that's...
What is that these days? Because she's going to borrow big time.
That's correct, but...
Is that conservative?
No, it's not. But the state we're in now, you need to borrow money.
I don't think what we're doing now is going that well, so I think, perhaps it is time to try something different, and we'll see. I don't know a lot about economics, but...
But you're backing Liz Truss because you think we need a change?
Yes.
You're backing Rishi Sunak, you're here to cheer him on. You've already voted for him.
Yes.
Would it be a disaster if Liz Truss took over?
I think it would be a disaster. The inflation will go down the drain.
Life would be interesting under Liz Truss. Maybe not in an entirely good way, but it certainly won't be boring. But I think Rishi is a much safer pair of hands.
Is it a heavy responsibility choosing Prime Minister? There's only a few of you doing it.
Yeah, well, it's the best view.
The best few?
The best view. The Tory party is open to anybody who wishes to join if they're a Conservative.
Well, Gary, what more do we know about the handover of power?
We have learnt something on that today. There were rumours about it before, but it's now been confirmed by Buckingham Palace that instead of the usual procedure, the outgoing Prime Minister comes out at number 10, late morning, says a few final words at the microphone in the street, and then goes off to Buckingham Palace to hand over the seals of office. Another car purrs in behind, in which the new Prime Minister sees the Queen at Buckingham Palace, then goes back to Downing Street, says there anything. Well, all of that timing has been a bit thrown because Buckingham Palace say they think it would be better if both of those people were to make their way to Balmoral and see the Queen there. They're not sure whether the Queen will feel quite up to travelling on the day, and so they want to get everything confirmed now, the arrangements confirmed now. This does throw a little bit of a spanner in the works. You want to be back in Downing Street, announcing your top positions, looking like you've hit the ground running, that you've got something to say earlier in the day, ready, as it were, for the evening bulletins. That's the tradition. That's what they'll be wanting to do. They'll have to rush because they've got to zip up to Scotland, whoever wins, and get back.
It's going to be a busy day, Gary. Thanks very much. Well, we did try to speak to someone from the Liz Truss campaign, but they declined to come on the programme. The Deputy Prime Minister, Dominic Raab, who's backing Rishi Sunak in the leadership campaign, has called Liz Truss's plans politically fatal. I spoke to him earlier and asked him to spell out why he was so worried.
I made the obvious point that we're walking an economic tightrope, and if we don't make the right calls, particularly on inflation, not only would it do serious harm to the economy and the jobs and the livelihoods, but of course it will have electoral consequences. And that's why I've always thought that Rishi Sunak has the right plan consistently throughout this campaign. Inflation is public enemy number one, and until we get that down, we won't be able to do all the other things like tax cuts. So that's the most important thing. And I think the course of this leadership contest has vindicated that. Everything that's been said by the Bank of England, the Institute for Fiscal Studies, the announcement from Ofgem on the energy cap, that this is really the most important issue because inflation eats away at savings, it eats away at salaries and wages, and risks, if we don't get it under control, pushing mortgage interest rates up.
Given how many worries there are, how anxious people are about the cost of living, whether it's the cost of food or energy prices or mortgage rates and so on, isn't it cruel that the two contenders haven't sat down together and hammered out an emergency plan with the current Prime Minister?
Well, in fairness, because of the package that the Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, as Chancellor, put together, there is a £37 billion package of support. That includes the increase in universal credit worth £1,000 to those that qualify, the increase in the national living wage, another £1,000, the tax cut through national insurance worth around £300, and of course there's going to be that £400 relief on energy bills coming in October.
Yeah, but that's all small beer if you're looking at 22% increase in inflation.
I don't think it's... Well, the inflation is not that high, and we want to see it come down, and that's why I think Rishi Sunak is the best candidate, because he's the one that's focused on it. I don't think, by the way, just to answer very squarely your question, it's credible in a leadership contest to think that they would come to a consensus. The reason there is a contest is because there are different ideas, and we need to have a rigorous, robust debate on those ideas, which is why actually they've been hammer and tongs arguing their case. And I think it will mean that the next Prime Minister, whoever that may be, and I clearly hope it will be Rishi Sunak, will be better placed to deal with the problems we face, and of course politically to take the argument to Labour, which I think would be a disaster for this country.
Say for a moment, though, you've backed the wrong horse, Liz Truss wins. Would you serve in her cabinet? Are you standing by the phone on Monday?
Well, look, I've always said I won't comment on jobs. I think it's disrespectful to the people voting in this contest to be talking about that. It's presumptuous. I, of course, hope that Rishi Sunak wins. But whoever wins, I think we'll need to come together, and I'll be willing to support whichever candidate becomes Prime Minister, because we need to unify, unite in the best interest of this country.
Are you psychologically prepared for the backbenchers?
Look, I've been in politics since 2010, plenty of rough and tumble. I'm ready for whatever comes next, and indeed look forward to it.
Well, you've still got a job at the moment as Justice Secretary, and there have been terrible delays to justice, particularly for people like rape victims. There's been a lot of criticism, and barristers are out on strike. You haven't even met the Criminal Bar Association since they started going out on strike in April. Will you now commit to sit down with them and try and thrash this out?
So first of all, in the last year, to squarely address your point, we've seen an increase by 2/3 in the volume of rape convictions. Since I've been Justice Secretary, the backlog has been coming down. But you're right, what has put all of that at risk is this... I think I'm... Can I answer your question, please, Cathy? I always want to answer it very squarely. The backlog has been coming down from around 61,000 to around 58,000, but it's gone back up since the Criminal Bar Association started striking. Now, we had an independent review into this. I waited for that, and then within a matter of months came forward, accepted all of its recommendations, a 15% increase on fees for criminal barristers, worth £7,000 increase for the typical barrister.
You've offered 15%. They say they've had a 28% decrease in real earnings, and you haven't met the Criminal Bar Association, the CBA, since they went out on strike. So will you now at least meet them, get round the table and try and resolve this?
Look, Cathy, as I said, I accepted all of the recommendations from the independent review into criminal legal aid. But what I can't do is take money from other crucial things like the victim support we provide for the victims of crime, including rape victims. I can't take it from prisoner rehabilitation like drugs or education, critical to bringing down reducing reoffending. If the Criminal Bar Association come forward with pragmatic, sensible suggestions which do not require a significant increase in the amount of funding, given that I've already accepted the independent review, then of course I would look at it and be happy to consider and talk further with them.
Dominic Raab, thanks very much.
Good to talk to you.